afternoon and welcome to round 3 of the NRL Thursday Liquid Lunch. The show aims to offer up some focused insights into punting and tipping, and we've also got some really great, hard-to-find stats for you as well. Now, this is a data-rich and stats-driven show that I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for those punters and tipsters who do stick around, we'll offer you a broader and deeper insight into games that you can then plug in to your decision-making strategy. Before we start, there's just a couple of housekeeping aspects to cover. You'll notice that I offer a bet to review in each round. I don't promote or advocate you placing those bets. I only suggest that you review them as part of your strategy and assess them using your punting methodology. Now, round 2 was a big one for the home sides. The Sharks, Storm, Raiders, Cowboys and Sea Eagles remained undefeated. Xavier Coates' freaky try to finish to get the Storm home over the Warriors was just amazing. Manly's attack again looked slick against the Roosters as Luke Brooks made himself at home at Brookvale. The Dolphins flyer, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, came up with a slashing hat-trick on Sunday as Wayne Bennett's men put the Dragons to the sword 38-zip. The last weekend, where a full round of 8 games saw the home side win all matches, was way back in round 26 in 2014. The Roosters calling, and that means it's time to turn the spotlight on Andrew, the Phantom, and myself, and look at just how we did for round 2 in the Thursday report card. There were only 2 underdogs that placed in the round, and both Andrew and the Phantom tipped quite well, with Andrew 5 from 8 and the Phantom surging with 7 from 8. I had 5 wagers in round 2 for 3 wins, picking up a 60% win rate. I was very happy in general, but my punt on the Storm at -6.5 at the line lost. And I've got to say, I was disappointed how the Storm surrendered their lead. I achieved an acceptable return on investment of 48%. Now, we've got a lot to try and fit into under 20 minutes, so let's get stuck into it. Game 1 tonight sees the much-anticipated grand final rematch between the Panthers and the Broncos at Bluebet Stadium. Prior to the 2023 grand final, these two teams last met in round 12 when Penrith avenged their opening round loss to Brisbane with a 15-4 win at Suncorp Stadium in a very entertaining and intense match to open the NRL's Indigenous round. It was a low-scoring game with just 3 tries scored. Both the Panthers and Broncos won last round. I wasn't impressed by the Panthers last week against the Eels, but they did enough. They now face a confident Broncos team coming off an impressive 28-18 win. However, the Broncos picked up some injury concerns. 3 of the last 4 matches between Penrith and Brisbane at Bluebet Stadium have been decided by a margin of 6 points or less. Penrith have bombed a few tries so far, which is unlike the Panthers we're used to. Brisbane will be fired up for the grand final revenge, but no Adam Reynolds is a real blow. Brisbane has covered the line in each of its last 5 matches as an underdog, and Penrith has won 11 of its last 12 matches at Bluebet Stadium. Bookies have the Panthers at $1.28, with the Broncos way out to $3.70. I think the Broncos are touting some value. Game simulation win prediction has Penrith at 76 and Broncos 34% chance of a win. The bet to review, Brisbane Broncos plus 9.5 at $1.95. Now, Friday's early game is the Warriors versus Raiders across the Tasman at Apollo Project Stadium, Christchurch. It was in round 21, 2023, when the Warriors again hosted the Raiders in New Zealand. It was to be a golden point thriller. The Warriors victorious, 21-20. 6 weeks prior, the Warriors spoiled Jared Croker's 300th game celebrations. The Warriors opened the scoring and Canberra hit back in the 18th minute when Hudson Young ran a 40-metre try in to score. It's not easy being a Warriors fan, they tell me. They produced a great comeback against the Storm last week, just to give up 2 tries in the final 2 minutes. On the other hand, the Raiders ran out comfortable 32-12 winners over the Tigers last Saturday afternoon to give coach Ricky Stewart his 250th win as an NRL coach. New Zealand has lost each of its last 6 matches against the team that was on the top of the ladder. Ricky's Raiders are a lot more clinical than last year's version, with 2 13-plus wins and a refreshed defensive attitude and excellent completion rates. The away team has covered the line in 12 of the last 13 matches between New Zealand and Canberra. Both the Raiders and Warriors will be looking to be at their best for this clash. The away team has covered the line in 12 of the last 13 matches between New Zealand and Canberra. Warriors are a win 3 and lost 4 in Christchurch. Canberra in New Zealand on a Friday are a win 2, lost 2. The Warriors head-to-head at $1.43 holds some value, and the Raiders at $2.83 offers some wiggle, I think. My game simulation prediction has the Warriors at 70% and the Raiders 30% possibility of a victory. The bet to review is Raiders plus 7.5 at $1.90. Now, if you're like me, you're really into stats, then give the Gurgler a visit for all the stats that matter. They've got some hard to find and very interesting stats for you to look over. Just Google the Gurgler. Google the Gurgler and you can't go wrong. Next up is the Roosters versus Rabbitohs at Allianz Stadium. These sides last met up in round 27 last season. After a scrappy opening to the game, the Roosters opened the scoring in the 8th minute, and the try came courtesy of former Rabbitoh Corey Allen. The score remained 4-zip after Joseph Suwali shanked the conversion. The Roosters, 26-12, were triumphant. And as a bonus, they also knocked out South Sydney from finals football for 2023. Souths sit near the bottom of the NRL ladder after 2 rounds, and something needs to change. It could come via a win over the Roosters, who didn't look great last week. Both teams are coming off defeats. Roosters are favoured to win, but the Souths machine is out to prove themselves. South Sydney has lost each of its last 6 matches in Sydney. Each of Sydney's last 6 matches have gone under the total match points line. Dominic Young could be the buy of the season for the Roosters. His speed is just amazing. That said, Roosters did make 20 errors against Manly. Roosters have won all 8 clashes v South Sydney at the Sydney Football Stadium on a Friday. South Sydney failed to cover the line in each of its last 9 matches and lost their last 6 matches in Sydney. The task gets harder for the Roosters after news they'll be without veteran Luke Keary from a head knock. With coach Trent Robertson likely to hand Connor Watson his first opportunity in first grade since suffering his ACL injury back in 2022. Platforms have the Roosters at around $1.70, with Souths at $2.15. The game simulation win prediction puts the Roosters at 60% and Souths a clear 40% split. Bet to review is Souths plus 2.5 at $1.80. The 3 p.m. game on Saturday sees the Bulldogs v Titans at Belmore Sports Ground. They last met in round 27 when the Titans ended their season on a high as they emerged 34-30 victors over the Doggies in a high-scoring affair with 12 tries. The Titans' veteran half, Kieran Foran, turned back the clock, scoring his first hat-trick in his career. The 34-year-old pulled all the reins to cap off what was a disappointing season for Titans. We'll get to trivia time in just a moment, but first, let's dig into the stats for Game 4 a little further. The Titans had the bye last week. It was a tough start for the Bulldogs last week against the Sharkies, going down 25-6 at PointsBet. The Bulldogs are hoping to get their first win of the year, but they're a hard team to bet on. There's more upside with the Titans. Canterbury has lost each of its last 6 matches, going back to 2015. The Bulldogs have won only 3 of their past 12 matches at Belmore. They've also lost all 3 games against Queensland sides over that time. The Titans need to beat the Bulldogs to be considered competitive this season. Bulldogs are $1.80, Titans $2 head-to-head. The simulation win prediction is Doggies 52%, Bulldogs 48%, which for me is a coin toss. The Gold Coast Titans at $2 is the punt to review, I think. We'll be right back after a little liquid lunch ourselves with trivia time. Congratulations to last week's winner, Peter Nolan from Sydney. The correct answer was the centre. To win a copy of my book, A Guide to Better Tipping in the NRL, simply email your answer to the address below. This week's question is, all home teams won in round 2 last weekend. Which season and round did that last happen for a full 8-game round? Next up, the Dragons are hosting the Cowboys at Netstrata Jubilee. They last met up in round 11, 2023, on a Saturday evening at Queensland Country Bank Stadium for a promising contest between the two sides. This was a particularly important night for the Dragons, who were celebrating Ben Hunt's 300th NRL game. Despite a competitive second half from the Dragons, the Cowboys' effort in the first half was enough for them to get a win, 42-22. After a good opening game, the Dragons were thumped by the Dolphins last week. It was a return to their true form, and it could have a flow-on effect against North Queensland Cowboys on Saturday. Bookmakers are right to have the Cowboys favoured to win following their comeback win last week, and they'll be tough to beat again. The underdog has covered the line in each of St George Illawarra's last 10 matches. Dragons kept the Dolphins scoreless for nearly 40 minutes before the floodgates opened after the break, missing a rare opportunity to win a game as favourites. North Queensland has won each of its last 4 matches against the Saints. 8 of the Dragons' last 9 matches have gone under the total match points. Cowboys lost 3 of their 4 away games on a Saturday last season, and one loss was a 66-18 defeat to the West Tigers. Saints win 13, lost 6 versus Queensland opposition at Jubilee Cogra. Cowboys sit firm at $1.45, Dragons $2.75. The win prediction is Cowboys 70%, Dragons 30%. It could be closer than many punters believe, and my bet to review is under 43.5 at $1.91. Saturday night at 7:35 p.m. is the Tigers taking on the Sharks at Leichhardt Oval. They last met in round 19. The first points came courtesy of Nico Hines' penalty goal. Cronulla extended the lead in the 15th minute with Sione Katoa crashing over in the corner for a try that looked dubious at best, but was confirmed by the bunker. Cronulla have continued their winning ways over the West Tigers with a 36-12 win. Cronulla is unbeaten after 2 games. And let's see if I can get this right. Tuka Hua Papua was a new name for most of us as he ran out for his first NRL game for the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. He's a man mountain at 114 kilograms and 196 centimetres. The Tigers slumped again, going down to Ricky's boys 32-12. Afterwards, Benji said there were standards we practiced at training and that we wanted to put out there today. We did a fair job to get back to 14-12, but we lost our way with things that we don't want to do this year. That was the disappointing part. My question is, how many games will the Tigers win this season? Lachlan Gavin showed a lot of potential last week and hopefully a sign that the Tigers' younger players will start to flourish. Cronulla has won each of its last 4 matches against the West Tigers by a margin of 13 plus points. Cronulla has also won each of its last 6 away matches against the West Tigers. The Tigers are at $4.30, with the Sharks very short, $1.22. My game simulation prediction, I wish it was better for the Tigers fans, but it's Tigers 15% and the Sharks 85% respectively. A wager to review would be Cronulla Sharks minus 11.5 at $1.90. Let's take a look at the boys' tips and predictions for round 3. It seems there are some differing opinions again this round. The consensus, however, with the Panthers, Cowboys, Sharks, Eels and Storm games. I like that the Phantom is tipping Tigers with Titans and Souths. The Phantom has a bit of crystal ball stuff going on there, I think. In Game 7, the early Sunday game, has the Eels hosting the Sea Eagles at Combank Stadium. Last season in round 16, the Parramatta Eels dominated their Saturday evening home game against the Sea Eagles. Both Parramatta and Manly were coming off the back of 20-point wins the previous weekend. Parramatta looked consistently on top of the Sea Eagles, making big meters with their sets and leaving limited opportunities for Manly. Para got the lollies that day, 34-4. These sides are on 4 and 2 points respectively going into the game, so the stakes are high. The Eels played well last weekend against the Panthers, but not good enough to win on the road. Returning home should help, but I've been more impressed by the Manly Sea Eagles, who are certainly flying high at the moment. But it's their form good enough to handle the Eels? I don't know. Parramatta have won 8 of their last 9 home games versus Manly and 16 of their 21 overall since 1998. Parramatta have also won 8 home games in a row on a Sunday. Para has only scored 12 points total in the second half so far. So, that's something to consider. Manly will be relying on Turbo, DCE and Ruben Garrick staying fit to be a genuine finals chance. Parramatta will need to get their big men moving from the start and consolidate their defence around the edges. Manly Warringah are off to a strong start in 2024 after a couple of poor seasons, and Parramatta had more than a few scares last week against the Panthers. Bookies see Para at $1.86 with Manly hovering early at $1.98. The game simulation has a coin toss with Parramatta 55% and Manly 45%. We'll see which one comes over there The bet to review is under 41.5 at $1.90. We finish off the round with the Knights versus Storm. The two last clashed in round 21 when the Knights produced a determined effort to upset the Melbourne Storm in front of a passionate Newcastle crowd. It was a fast start for the Storm when Nick Meaney scooped up a loose pass and ran 60 metres to score the first try. Ultimately, the Knights did enough to secure a hard-fought 26-18 upset over the Storm. Despite the Knights being winless from the first two games, playing at home is a big bonus for the Knights. Melbourne have won 5 in a row in Newcastle on a Sunday. The Storm have won 10 in a row on a Sunday versus Newcastle at any venue. Newcastle won all 10 games on a Sunday last season. Melbourne has failed to cover the line in 8 of its last 9 matches following a win. The Knights' Adam Elliott is starting to find his feet in Newcastle after an injury-interrupted 2023 season. I've learnt not to count out the Storm at all. They're never out of the contest. With 2 close wins so far, they'll want to start to begin winning more convincingly. 4 of the last 5 matches between Newcastle and Melbourne have gone over the total match points line. Most wagering platforms can't pick a clear winner for this battle, posting odds for the Knights at $1.86 and $1.98 for the Storm fans. My game simulation has a very close coin toss prediction of the Knights 48% and Storm at 52%. This game's bet to review is a 2-leg multi. Knights minus 1.5 and over 40.5 at $3.50. We know as punters there's any number of tools we use to make our wagering decisions. Sure, there's intuition, experience and insight, but to support those qualities we must use data. It's possible to win a little without using stats, but it's impossible to consistently win without diving deeply into the data. Here are my personal punts I'll be making this round. I fancy 5 wagers this week, 2 2-leg multis and 3 head-to-head wagers, including South paying $2.17. These are the bets I'll give you in my punting data each week in the Thursday report card. So, thanks for having me at your space today. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we've had putting it together for you. Leave your comments about how we can improve. And remember, always back yourself. So, that's enough from this mug. Bye for now, and good luck with your tipping and punting.